Good afternoon. First, a big thank you to you, AIM. I'm so pleased having you part of this podcast and having this interview with you. You have been one of my mentors for many months now, and you are going to help me, I know, much more in the coming years. I would really like to start with a short introduction about yourself. So, who are you?
Sure. Hi, my name's Aim, ecosystem builder. I've been supporting the Thai tech community for the past 15 years. Built the first co-working space here. Hoba, exactly. And I cut my teeth actually in impact. So we're here in this Na Cafe, a cafe run by underprivileged folks and refugees who are trying to make a living. And that was actually how I got into my career, which is actually working with entrepreneurs trying to change the world. And 15 years in, I continue to strive for that, even though I have now made my way into the tech scene and Web3 and do many other things. But I always feel that my real business, my real calling, is to enable people to achieve their dreams. And thanks to you, Pierre, also my mentor. I think we co-mentor each other. You showed me a dream that I wish I could have done, right? To go on this journey with your family and to do the work that you're about to do. Naturally, I said, I need to be a part of it. It just was something in my gut that told me I have to help in some way, even though I don't know where this journey will lead, but I'm sure it will lead to many wonderful places.
Amazing. You are touching to a few words that I really want to discuss today with you. You mentioned about impact, of course, which came back a few times. You mentioned about innovation, and you and I have been working in that space for a while. So I'd love to discuss a bit more about innovation. What does that mean to you? What do you see as the future of innovation? And obviously, we will discuss about a bit of about travel, because I hope that people will travel through this interview and this podcast. Not only because I am starting now this big trip, borderless impact around the world, but because I think that we should be able to travel more across, the new innovation models that are thriving. I hope that people will travel along the way with us. So to start, I think that I would really like to understand a bit more what you started. What is Uber? How everything started. Tell me about the story about Uber, because, as an ecosystem enabler, as you like to describe yourself, it started with Uber, a strong community still existing today. So what it is?
Actually, the genesis story of Haba and most co-working spaces in the world really started with an entrepreneur scratching their own itch, which is they, like me, have felt that in a city like Bangkok in 2011, there was really no place where I could work on my project. It could be an impact project, building a startup, being a freelancer, but I was not able to connect with the right support. I had all these ideas. I just don't know who can give me advice on how to actually go about doing it and be inspired. With entrepreneurship, sometimes I get challenged, even till today, by very senior people. What does entrepreneur mean for you, right? And then there's so many canned answers of that.
So what does it mean to you?
Exactly. So I think it's somebody who, by definition, is about to endeavor on something very risky, but they want to take an action to solve a problem, primarily, in my definition, for other people. And that problem has the potential to be very, very big, right? So that doesn't mean that small problems in a city is less important, but for a lot of the challenges that the world is going through, a problem in Bangkok can be the same problem in Baku or Barcelona. What I feel that while we get lost in the definition from maybe the tech world says, this is scalable, using digital technology to impact many lives, billions of lives. A lot of time we say that like automatically, but we don't really understand why we are doing the work that we do. And that was essentially coming back home to Haba. I was essentially building the hub that I wanted to exist in, that I wished when I was starting out in my business that I would get great advice, be able to raise funding, find support, find like-minded people, because I was working out of coffee shops, working at home, very lonely, very unsupported, and also very much feeling like there has to be a better way. So literally, I just started.
So it was a hub, it was a one place or many
Exactly.
places in Bangkok.
Exactly.
Do you feel this kind of model, having places where entrepreneurs can come together, do you feel it has a future, knowing that a lot of people now are living virtually and that there are a lot of online communities who can support entrepreneurs? What's your point of view on the importance of having a real place, a villa, whatever it is, so that people could come together?
Yeah, I think that's a great question because that's a question I asked myself while going from 2012 to 2019. We tried to keep expanding, right? There was this gold rush of like co-working spaces is then a new way of work. We had 6 locations. We had ambitions for 13. WeWork was coming into the market. There was a lot of competition, land grabbing, a lot of tension. Then what we realized is that after the pandemic hitting reset on most of our operations, right, we had to scale down from spaces. WeWork had its problems. Actually, come full circle post-COVID, we're seeing a resurgence of people coming back. There was a phase of flexible and hybrid work, and a lot of folks still feel that by working in close proximity with incredible, smart, passionate people, they're actually getting more done, being more inspired, building better projects. And that is, for somebody that feeds on other people's energy, a bit of an extrovert, I feel that a lot of folks have gone full one way, fully online and, in Slack groups with 5,000 people and then chatting with their colleagues to a point where they're like, well, that's really not how they want to live their lives. And they're actually showing up in places like Thailand, as digital nomads. They're showing up in, tech houses, working on AI and Web3 projects. They're showing up in pop-up cities.
What do you think are the new model for these kind of, let's talk about real estate. Let's talk about, you just mentioned about tech houses. You led a co-working space. Some of them propose an accelerator incubator program, which has different type of services. What are the new model you foresee in the coming 10 years?
So it's a great research. I've been working with some professors at the University of Sydney who's been doing a lot of study on this. What we view that is going to be how young people think in the future is that, Gen Zs that I interact with are always on TikTok, have, no like jobs, or they don't have a house. They don't even know what they're going to do in the next 2 months in their lives. They're here in Koh Phangan, Chiang Mai, working on projects as a remote worker, a digital nomad, and they are, a bit anxious but also full of possibility. They're living in a way of work that feels alien to even somebody like me who built co-working spaces. It's like they are now this new generation of folks that are showing up, and they are really living in this very fluid kind of lifestyle where we like to talk about a new term that is called, post nation state, which is basically in the past we have an identity tied to our passport and where we grow up with, what we call. But a lot of folks nowadays are not just third culture kids. They are multicultural. They're traveling all the time. They're living in multiple countries, moving, and they need a different way of being supported. They need different kind of healthcare, taxes. They need different kind of living arrangements. One of the experience I have with this was when I was really deep, building the network, connecting Haba to the rest of the world. At one point in my life, I said, I was more connected to all the people I meet at conferences and all over these tech hubs that I show up than folks at home. I felt like I was part of a global network or global community, and that community start to manifest in different ways. They now have shared language, and they have a shared ritual where they're congregating in different conferences. The basically global citizenship, and now that's being facilitated by saying, okay, well, if you're a global citizen, why are you just showing up for a conference event? Why don't you show up for a pop-up city and become a temporary citizen of this city in Chiang Mai? All this has happened during DevCon, one of the biggest gathering of the Ethereum community. And I feel that these experiments are going on at tremendous scale. This is a world goes beyond just a place of co-working or co-living, but is now like an identity that people can now start to choose to subscribe to. I believe like I'm really interested in this identity and community in Montenegro or Chiang Mai or wherever. I'd like to become part of a citizen.
So such community could basically emerge everywhere in the world. What matters is what you could get out of those group of people and community wherever in the world.
Yeah, and then the values and the programming of what is the culture and why that community exists. And I'm a part of so many different fellowships. Ben Hillary Fellowship, Obama Leaders, All Network have are driven by certain individuals or certain values and certain kind of value proposition. And I feel that space is the physical space anchors us. It is a place to convene, but a tech hub, a tech house, or a pop-up city is more valuable by the content that's being created there.
It is very inspiring because we are in a world that has never been so close, right? With what happened in the recent election and what we see all over the world happening. And in the meantime, you come up here with a great provocation as like, really kind of challenging the notion of citizenship and thinking that maybe we should look at citizenship in a different way. And it could be like a community chip, kind of a way to be not only a citizen of a country, but part of a dedicated community where you share the same values and a community that basically help you to thrive in your life. Correct?
Exactly. Right now, there's 40 plus digital nomad visas across the world. Thailand has a very progressive and competitive one. But beyond that, there's so many different passport programs. But all of it is about attracting people to either invest or do something in the country, and we give you these perks. But for a lot of folks, those folks are not connected to the place that they now emigrate to. They're basically bought into the access. What I hope to see in the future that, the hubs that we build of the future are actually facilitating integration between in every community. There's always impact folks, tech folks, investors, and most of our communities sit in a bubble. And also the local government, local entrepreneurs, maybe divided by language or lacking proximity. I have always been somebody of a bit of a system diplomat. I wear many hats. Everybody asks me on LinkedIn, Aim, you have 30 jobs. You're doing impact, you're doing Web3, you're interested in space tech, you're talking to people about cybersecurity. Why are you all over the place?
Who are you?
Exactly.
We want to know who you are today.
Yeah. I'm a very curious guy. I find that everything is interesting. I might not be deep in every sector. There's some that I probably be more. But I see the linkage between different communities. And because nobody straddles and talks space and AI and Web3, I'm able to be in a room and feel comfortable everywhere and actually start to bring people together. So I found that as my superpower and naturally my calling and how I operate anyway. So I think that's something that's going to be very needed, even though in an age of AI where you can use bots to look up everybody on LinkedIn and send them a message. But in many countries, I think all around the world, that will drive for a greater need for relationship, for trust, for actually sitting and feeling this conversation, this pulse, this friendship, versus we initially talked about, why don't we just do this on a Zoom call? And, infinitely, that would have been easier, but also completely different. And really,
for sure. And this is the reason it is called borderless impact. I think we immediately go into the topic of all of this initiative. I do think that we are in a borderless world, while we only hear in the news that the borders are closing every single day. But technology is borderless, impact is borderless. The way we basically need to share, and foster data sharing across different countries, entities, protocol is borderless. And what you just described is borderless in a sense that we need to basically get connected to the right communities and the right service and support wherever they are. And now we have the ability to do so, right? What do you think? What are these new models that you see will emerge in terms of ecosystem enabler? So you ran Uber, what was the business model? What was Uber business model? And what, do you think that there are new models coming and thriving that we need to consider?
Well, initially it was very basic. We wanted to get paid in rent. And my biggest regret in my life was somebody trying to pay me rent in Bitcoin in 2013. I accepted a tip instead of a payment, and I live to regret about it. But I also know that bits versus atoms, there's only so much I could do to scale physical space. And I realized that actually after 10, 15 years, there were many billion-dollar companies that passed by this space. But I never really had a chance to participate in their success. I was hosting them, we supported them, and after
You had no skin in the game.
pretty much. So many tech hubs naturally gravitate towards supporting those builders and change makers and creators to actually launch and scale their solutions, connecting them to global networks, connecting them to other hubs like them all over. And there are many different brands and initiatives exist, like one that is happening now in Bangkok, Impact Hub, which has 50,000 entrepreneurs, hundreds of hubs worldwide, and they help from Bangkok. You can go through across the network to look for investors, collaborators. So those models already exist, but where I see that things can be elevated to a new set of extremes on so many fronts, right? On the physical space, I just came from a Bhutan Innovation Forum where His Majesty King Jigme proposed the creation of a new city to bring back the talent youth of Bhutan who have left the country looking for better jobs, both as an initiative to create jobs in the country, but also to bring innovation from anywhere in the world that thrive on the theme that is resonant with Bhutan, spirituality. Literally, the city that His Majesty is trying to build, the size of Singapore, is called Galafu Mindfulness City.
Which we will try to visit, I hope.
We will. Only willing is your ability to drive more kilometers. Essentially, now it's a city level scale to do nation building, to create a new narrative, a story that Bhutan is open for business and leapfrogging to have the same laws like Singapore to attract global investors and to create a thriving economic activity while also maintaining cultural heritage. So you'll see from physicality, new ideas of how to actually create more meaningful, mindful cities, right? We see many city building initiatives, but they're planned by, from the top down, and you also see projects that are from the bottom up. Yesterday, I was talking to a friend in Chiang Mai, and he said he has this place in Chiang Mai, and he feels like Chiang Mai has a chance to become a global city, not just the second hub after Bangkok, but it's already one of the most visited destinations in the world, but has not been able to promote itself. And I feel that even the small people that sometimes say, I'm not royalty, or I'm not, prime minister, or I'm not a billionaire investor, are using the tools that are now readily available to fundraise, to crowdsource, to say, through maybe shared ownership, right? Tokens or NFTs or fundraising mechanism to be able to say, well, we want to create this vision. Who would fund it? And now you're seeing a lot of interest coming into Chiang Mai post all these pop-up cities that just happened. And I think that now the infrastructure for building anybody's, I don't want to say dream utopia, but a version of how they believe communities in the world should exist. And in the future, all of us will vote to become basically digital citizens.
Coming back to the notion of citizenship, and we want to become part of this new tech innovation city, the mindfulness city, because they are talking a lot about mindfulness innovation, if I'm not wrong, in Bhutan, which also is super important. There is a DNA at the core of the model, and we will vote. We will basically help the community to better thrive as a country.
Yeah, and I think right now the reason that this is so exciting space because the world is going through a new industrial revolution with AI and all sorts of the problems that we are going through, but also it's the biggest lifetime economic opportunity in our generation, which is to decarbonize and save the world from
So we will get back to obviously this impact that we need, that we all want, but I want to get back to this ecosystem enabler business model. As you said, you created Uber with a proper co-working space model, but you envision that there should be new hubs that potentially could invest a bit more in the startups that they are hosting. Is that not always easy when you combine different business models to find the right one? Can we find the equivalent of the Y Combinator from a real estate hub point of view? You know, everyone wants to go to the Y Combinator. You need to apply. Do you think we can get to the same kind of level of type of mechanism? Like everyone should be looking forward to be hosted in your Uber hub. And eventually, you know, people would put an application and you will be the one selecting who you want because you would also put some money into their business. What do you think we could get to this model and that basically a hybrid model where the money will not only come from the real estate or just buying the Wi-Fi or the desk, but potentially by getting revenues against some equity in the startups? Do you foresee this type of things coming?
I sincerely believe that, but there was a point that we talked about earlier around niches. And I think every country that has tried to copy Silicon Valley has probably failed to do so, even though they've invested billions, because Silicon Valley is built upon decades, you know, of government, research, university, capital, and hosts, you know, some of the most brilliant entrepreneurs in the world. Whereas in other markets, you know, the strengths may be very different. Like in Thailand, the potential for healthcare and tapping into 40 million tourists that, you know, in the future, our government wants to see 150 million tourists. The same scale as Paris, a flow of people moving through Bangkok. How can you use Bangkok as a hub to test your ideas to spread across the world? And we're strong in food, we're strong in culture, many things that people love about Thailand, and tourism. Those ideas would be great here. But maybe a space tech. I do a lot with space as part of this Edmund Hillary Fellowship and the New Zealand Thai Chamber of Commerce president. I was told by the ambassador not so long ago that actually New Zealand is number 4 in the world for space launch after the US and Europe, because it's got empty skies and it's on one edge of the world. It's really a destination of itself. But that geography leads to certain strengths to be able to launch satellites. And you know, had you known about that, so then the next question is, so what other strengths does New Zealand have in terms of food and culture, right? The cleanliness of the water and the air. So I think as we're saying, like, we want to build hubs that support entrepreneurs. I think the world will have a multitude of niches and nodes in many different themes. And how do those nodes get tied up and become connected into a super network across the world? There's been many experiments being done. Impact Hub is one of them, and in the Endeavor Network, Google for Startups. I think you'll see in the many years forward both a kind of a combination of multiple networks getting together to create a globally deployable network of innovation, just like a constellation of a Starlink or OneWeb, right? You can tap into all these satellites and talk to anybody in the world. I believe that similar folks like myself are saying, well, if I just have one hub, it's interesting.
That's the reason you joined as well Impact Hub in the community. They have a very strong network.
Exactly. So that's kind of where I see the market is headed, and people can build new networks. They can be part of multiple networks. They can, you know, join existing ones, legacy ones. And I think all that will slowly over time, let's create this kind of deployable, both physical and relationship-based network at scale. And literally on this trip of yours, Borderless, will be tapping into that network.
Yeah. We want to go in every single city, and I wish that we could get more deep conversation, like the one that we have today, and be borderless, so that we could break the frontiers and just ensure that people are connected and come together more and more, especially the people who are thriving. Now let's talk about those people, right? You know how much I am interested in those companies generating, as I like to say, good growth. We need to make an impact. We need to definitely solve lots of the massive issues and that we see today: climate warming, education, access to healthcare, just to quote, list a few of them. But in the meantime, we are in a world dictated by finance where money matters a lot. And do you think that what do you think about good growth? What good growth means to you? And do you think that there is some space for companies who have this mentality of good growth maker? And what do they need to make a better impact?
I believe, in a very radical yet realistic way that actually all companies should be impact or good growth by default, right? We have this notion
Part of the DNA,
I think we should reverse the narrative from that impact and good growth companies are rare, they're sacrificing profit to do good, and they're treated as a special category. In the past, that's how, when I started my career, social enterprises were full of very much passionate, activistic, people that really just want to get their hands dirty, change the world. But we struggle to catch up in terms of the business knowledge in order to finance and structure these ideas and actually turn them into sustainable and thriving ventures. So a lot of that energy gets wasted because a lot of folks, once they started to do this for a couple of months or a couple of years, naturally get burned out. I think at some point we have to address that, the capital is a fuel for innovation. It's stored energy in a way that, you need it. We live in this system and we cannot avoid it until we figure out if I can pay my dues with karma points. While we can't do that at the moment, what we can do, the best thing is, how can we say good growth companies actually grow faster, are more successful, and there's more example? Right now, there's too few examples. Some may have been quite successful, $1 billion companies, IPO, then many times they lose their way, right? You see many brands that are very sustainable, and then once they got bought by a big company, they become less so. The founder spirit dies, mission of the company changes. And how do we retain that for a much longer term? We don't want to keep talking just about a brand like Patagonia, right? There's much more. But how can more people emulate that playbook and actually thrive? And I think one of the things that was always a challenge was that the capital could never really find its way to the right project. And it was very hard for the great developers and owners and builders to actually create a project that was investable. So there was always a disconnect in terms of this information and flow. And to facilitate investment across border, investor is here, can invest in Thailand. How does that all work out? And I feel that when I started my career, we were trying so hard just to build social entrepreneurs in Thailand, social investors, and philanthropists in Thailand. We did that for a very long time, and there were few and far of them. But actually, on a global scale, we're a gazillion. Many of them were passing through Bangkok. Bangkok is a UN regional headquarters. A lot of people doing great work, impact work here, but are completely disconnected from the entrepreneurial scene. So if one of the things that we need to support good growth entrepreneurs, can they create highly investable businesses and not be saddled by a gazillion requirements? Because sometimes to do good, then all of a sudden it's like, prove to me that you're doing good.
And how do you prove it?
Exactly.
And how do you measure?
Right.
I think we see more and more this kind of paradigm in measurement of the impact. You startup CEO was mentioning last week, I basically need to get two faces. The one that I have in front of the VCs, talking about my financial return, and the one that I need to get in front of the NGOs the day after, because I need to show them the impact I'm bringing back to communities. Do you think we could get to this balance between measuring a financial return and measuring a good impact? And do you think we can get to a sustainable way of measuring this impact so that everyone in the world could really track what this company is doing at which pace?
I think through two technologies, agentic AI and the kind of standardization of different impact measurement, this is a solvable problem. Maybe
could you explain a bit more why you think agentic AI will play a role in this impact measurement?
So I see this in the climate reporting sector. So many different standards for US, Europe, Japan, China, whatnot. People need to generate so many reports to satisfy regulators, investors, and all these folks are saying, well, this is way too much time. I already have problems collecting the data, requesting data from my
No need to get more problem to publish.
Right. And then I have met with teams who work entire year and are completely burnt out by this doing everything manually. And over time, this is an untenable problem because every country is now trying to enforce some certain, carbon decarbonization rules and saying you need to be able to track and show, otherwise there's these penalties. A lot of these organizations say we can't hire sustainability expert fast enough. I don't have the money, especially the small ones that may need to export to Europe. So one of the companies I invested in was a bunch of very smart kids in Chiang Mai say, okay, I have a small team, and we realized that other people were creating carbon accounting consultancies and all sorts of tools. People can't use the tool. There are not enough staff in the company to use the tools. The owner of these SMEs are so under pressure, lack of budget. We'll just build it with AI first in mind. Like just put in the data, we'll crunch it, we'll come up with a report, we'll make the report fit all the requirements so that at one point, as this company develops, we will actually allow you to report so that you will pass whatever, export requirements there are or regulators and actually solve a lot of your problems. So I think, this could be a 10-year process, but as we kind of chip away at this problem, one of the things that I always say is doing good growth or impact business is like God mode of startups or starting a new company. In the past, you only cared about your stakeholders and making a product. Now you have to care about the community, the air, the water, everything is a factor. And people judge you at the highest level. At the same time, you're supported at the lowest level because people think you're trying to do business, is it a nonprofit? You're philanthropic. Why are you charging so much margins? Why are you making so much money? And I feel that this redefinition of an impact business is you should be commercially very successful so that the more successful you are, the more impact you can have. But at the same time, we need to support these impact businesses better. And the tools in the past.
So we need more NGOs, we need more subsidiaries, we need more funds to basically help them take off?
Yeah, for sure. Entrepreneur support organizations like co-working spaces, like Impact Hub, like support programs are all great. But in the past, even though we provide all the support and counseling and mentoring in the world, a lot of these companies cannot do the work of a very established business with a reporting department and compliance and investor and relations and dealing with regulators. But now with AI and new tools, I think the ability to satisfy those requirements to become an impact or a good company is starting to lower, while at the same time people are seeing more reasons to do that. Hopefully the next generation of consumers do not lose faith in humanity and say, YOLO, I don't care the world's going to hell, I'm just going to live my life. But that they will demand more and more scrutiny from all the brands and be more even demanding that companies satisfy higher and higher bar. And you see it. I talk to large enterprise. I deal with a lot of Fortune 500 companies. There is always a concern about the right to operate, which is I need to be seen doing something, benefiting the country that we operate or the community. Otherwise, things can happen. But right now, it's quite more of like, let's do something good as a way to show to government or the community that we care. But it's more of
it's not industrialized.
Yeah,
there is no proper process.
Yeah, it's not really coming from within. It's just like do this as an insurance so that if bad things happen, we actually did some good.
So why not basically giving more time back to these startups so that they could focus on where they are impacting rather than asking them or forcing them to be in a system where they spend more time in showing how or defending how they are impacting?
Yes, and I have been to gazillion impact measurement workshops and conferences. The founder, a small team is in there. They're dying, trying to keep the lights on. They have a gazillion other things they need to focus on. So we really need to make compliance and reporting super simple.
Is that something the countries, states needs to initiate, needs to lead, saying like, we now will get this proper measurement? And how could basically this, back to this notion of citizenship, back of this notion of borderless technology, how is it possible? Do you think we could get like the almost 200 countries in the world coming together to find a unique way of measuring consistently how people are doing certain impact?
I believe that
do we need a new division in the United Nations for this?
Possibly. I mean, look, the results of a global standardized, carbon accounting measure would be a good start. And, we're fighting around microplastics and some
But carbon is one data point only.
Exactly.
Which is already very complicated to set up.
Yes.
So if we want to measure soil temperature, species, conservation, nature damages, or anything which is, if we want to really track all those different things, do you feel it is possible? Do you think that we can get consistent way of tracking all this single data and maybe bring also all this data into one unique identifier, one unique KPI?
I think right now there's one that I'm very, passionate about. It's they call the planetary boundaries. I'm sure you've heard of it. Big world, small planet. So they already track methane and the carbon and whatnot. And then there's a couple of other measures that are not currently trackable. And there's no technology or no reliable data set. But the framework already exists. Right now, it's a great book and it's a couple of TED Talks and great story on Netflix. How can we popularize ideas like planetary boundaries, not in just the sphere of impact people and academia, but everybody feels like.
So planetary balance, something we need to check, absolutely, and we'll put this on the link as well. It's important for people to have a look and just.
Probably the most influential book I read on a 4-hour flight, and I was completely sold that, all of us need to dedicate some part of our lives to contribute to climate as one of the biggest problems and opportunities.
Yeah.
The $1 trillion opportunity of our lifetimes.
I like you talk about opportunities. I'm a strong believer we need to be very optimistic, even if a lot of people are pessimistic. And we need also those people, because the best way to basically get people interested in something is showing them what could go wrong. But I also am a strong believer, and the reason of the podcast is we need to focus on the solution and the people who think positively about our future with technology, all this kind of AI for good vibe. You mentioned just the importance of AI agent. Fantastic, example of how AI again can simplify the life of a lot of startup owners to focus on doing the right things, not just telling what they do, but doing the right things and continue to impact.
Exactly. Right now, there's the initiative Hiroshima.AI, right? At the G7, Japan is trying to lead how to figure out a standard for ethical AI. So all these initiatives are happening. They're behind the scenes, but same time, like one of the conversations we have today, like no social change ever came through with people just waiting and the government handing everything on a silver platter, right? There's movement. I was at the Obama Foundation meeting President Obama. I did ask him a very simple question, which is, I really wanted to be more impactful in my community. How can I do that? It's a really dumb question, to be honest, to ask a president. Like, you're only one shot in your life. Like, how to be better at my job. Initially, he gave a shrug. And then after that, he thought about it and he went back on stage in front of 60 people. He said, really the fundamental thing that he learned as being an activist at a church in Chicago was two things, is to organize people and resources and money. So organize people, organize money. You can do so many things after that. The fuel is required in order to bring everybody together, but the people, and not just who is the person on stage speaking, but the values, the mission, the vision for a better future. Never been a greater time where, we can say that, at some point, we're seeing it on TV all the time, is people are still, very much inspired by folks that go above and beyond and do something, and they want to follow, they want to be part of this movement. We didn't have a Martin Luther King for a very long time, and I hope that, in the future of this world, we'll have more influential, inspiring, legendary people that say, the world should go this way and not that way, rather than divide people, right? Make people feel we're on spaceship Earth. We're on the same team, on the same vessel on the same mission. We are polluting our own homes, poisoning our kids, and we are all suffering for it together. And I think that's where, as you go on this journey, Pierre, you'll realize, as I met so many, literally through all my startup network, friends in almost every city in the world. I could been asked to go to Iran, Iraq, Palestine, and have incredible conversations, right? I've never got a chance to go to Mongolia, Bhutan, New Zealand, all these incredible locations. Now the politics suck, but the people everywhere you go,
Very
most of the time, are
insightful.
amazing. So how do we, through this people-to-people interaction, do a much better job than even governments can do? And then I think once we can show that through our efforts, our content, our networks, our capabilities, and then these new tools, we can actually achieve so much of the mission that government can no longer ignore, because a lot of times it's only 20,000 people signing a petition, but we now have the infrastructure to reach billions of people all at the same time. But what are we spending time on?
And reason as well, each of us has a role to play in this journey. This is the Medical Flow, which is based on the power of a network. And a lot of people who have been working on AI for many, many years will always refer to this, like how much the network could be powerful.
Yes.
So every single of us could really have a role to play in this journey. I want to come back to these startups, the makers, the one who are making an impact. You had an amazing experience in Startup Advisor. You have participated, you were involved in many accelerator programs. I would really like to understand, from your point of view, what do you think do startups needs the most at the moment? I know it's a very obvious question, and certainly a question many people have raised, but are the needs the same? How can we basically better serve those startups, especially the startups that are focusing their energy on solving one of the big challenges we have? What do they need compared to others? What else do they need? How much can we help them? And how can we help them?
Yes, so there's been a lot of experience where I meet founders who are young, passionate, really smart, through their limited experience and review, maybe it's trying to solve a problem in their hometown, in their part of the city. I've yet to see that actually the technology and the ideas and the possibilities are much, much wider. And a lot of the times there's really not just new innovation, but there's also a lot of ideas that have already been done, success or failure. So one of the things I see initially that people struggle with is, where can I learn from? Like literally, you still see it in accelerators I run today. We'll put Post-its on the table, and everybody has a laptop, and you'll say, come up with great ideas. People will be writing on the Post-it, and then at the end of the workshop, we'll say, so who used AI? And maybe one or two people raise their hand up. But actually, the ability for them to do research, to see competition, to see what other people have done is tremendous. So I think one thing.
So we need more AI expertise for the startups so that we can really fuel them with AI expertise, thinking, knowledge, practice.
I think that's the turbocharge, really giving like the Iron Man suit to a baby. Right now, everybody's like, I've got this little idea, but all of a sudden, once they realize that there's so much wealth of knowledge sitting in your head, my head, sitting in all these platforms, a lot of people have underutilized it. I can always give you the typical reasons why investors invest in a startup. It's a great team. They have product market fit. Have you built something and tested it? Have you actually demonstrated that you're highly investable? That you actually build not just a nice technology, but a business, right? Those are the basics. Now, that is now table stakes. And the good thing is, the best founders today have come to realize that the best content to learn about the nuts and bolts of building a startup impact business are all online. You can take online courses and all that. Now, on top of that is, a lot of people are still, under leveraging technology. And I still meet founders who say, unless I have money, I can't do any good. I can't build this company because I need funding. True, but now if you're very resourceful, you can actually say, how can I do work of 10 people just with me alone, right? And the ability for me to do that has been proven by myself. I've launched in the past, I've have hundreds of staff. Nowadays, I say, what can I do by myself first with all the tools that I already have? And then I will say like, okay, I really need expertise. I need some help. And that's actually how I mentor a lot of my staff is that like use the tools that are already available out there to turbocharge and do the work that you can, because now we can be leaner, faster, more efficient, and actually skip one of the steps that a lot of good growth companies struggle with is so they feel that because a lot of businesses are working on the field, on the ground, helping people, they feel that by the time that they've done all the hard work, the labor, working with farmers, working with
True.
people on the hill tribes, they're exhausted. They already don't feel like tech and innovation is much on the later end of their concern. Now
Well, especially that could be the moment where they could get the tech to deliver all the rest, all
exactly
the other stuff.
to actually
Yes.
market their stuff and whatnot. And I see it's not only about an age gap, it's actually about the
behavior.
ability to learn, right? And whether you're I advise international schools and universities, the ability to learn things very quickly and use it is like a future ready skill. Like everybody needs to learn new tools all the time because the tools are always changing. Now I see even older people. One of my chairmen at a company, INNOVERA, teaches me how to use AI tools. He'll come every time he comes and we visit. He'll explain to me how this and that work, how he uses Perplexity for everything, right? So even somebody who's twice my age is actually on the bleeding edge, trying out every new thing.
Yeah, it's a behaviors. It's a way of thinking. It's a way of behaving.
Yeah. And I understand that maybe internet issues of power, right? And there's going to be limitations on business. But
so we need more of these, infusing more of this in the minds of those startups entrepreneurs. Does it mean that for the future of Huba or any of those acceleration program or co-working space, it needs to be fueled by AI? It needs to be so when you basically will join Uber in the next 5 years, there will be like AI agents already dedicated to you to help you get and set up a team of 10 people immediately because you decided to go to Uber. Is that what you foresee? Is that what we could see in the future?
Well, I'm already seeing that all the Mag 7, the Microsoft, Google, Amazon of the world have a package for each companies, right? But there's also an independent suite of tools and training. I have a bunch of friends, they have an executive program for executives to learn within a week how to do their entire workflow as a top executive in a company using AI tools. So these courses exist.
But as an ecosystem player, like think, we are here in Impact Hub. We have an amazing network. They have offices, they have real places all over the world, which I am very excited that I will be visiting those hubs. They have many startups, many great people coming like every day. And as you said, those people maybe don't use AI enough or don't even think that AI could do this task or this task for them, or even don't think that they could get a team of 20, 30, 40 people overnight with those tools. What can we do through Impact Hub to basically empower those entrepreneurs more with AI? Do we need to get partnership with Microsoft? Do we need to get training here? What do you concretely think we should set up here in this kind of environment?
I think the access to those tools and this program is no-brainer. It's already there. But the mission that you're working on is probably going to be one of the most important thing, which is to show people,
inspiring,
giving them a no-nonsense experience and perspective, saying like, okay, this company in Cambodia has been able to do this.
That is a lovely challenge. We need to get more of this challenge.
Exactly. And then those same people, that is the knowledge base that needs to be activated, curated, collected, and shared. And I feel like I know only the cases in Bangkok, all this in my head. This is why we're not on a mission just to create more content. This podcast is not about more talk shop, more dialogue, but to say, how do we actually get the stories, the experience, and the know-how in the hands of people who will then use this to actually do something with their businesses? And that's a win for this podcast and the trip, because all the stories that you'll be collecting, I'd want to listen and see, okay, so what's happening in Kazakhstan? How does that relate to me? Because that's really one of the biggest challenge in the past with these global network of hubs is like, I don't care what's happening in Ireland. I'm here in Bangkok. But actually now the world is much more connected. I see people showing up in Bangkok all the time because they're doing some sort of a pilot here that you've never heard about. That ability to harness the network, this is a fundamental problem with all physical and legacy networks. Incredible wealth of individuals, expertise, like capital, knowledge, research, IP are all hidden somewhere in little boxes and little
But the
hubs.
network is important.
Yeah, and how do you
get to the right people?
query and say, through the Impact Hub, through the Edmund Hillary Fellowship, this is an unsolved problem, ecosystem building business for 20 years. I can't even find, I'm showing up in Auckland or I'm showing up in Medellin. Who should I talk to? These are the projects I'm working on. Who are the investors, right? Now in the future, ecosystem research and reports will be automated. I have a friend who's doing Startup Blink. You can go in and search, right? There's many startup genome, many different data pools. I think in the future, I hope that the moment that you find that, okay, you want to do something in nanotech, you realize it immediately. Who do you need to talk to across the world? Who do you have access to based on the networks that you're already a part of, the connections of your on LinkedIn, and be able to activate your network at scale. And I feel that just like in any industry, by the time network operators, co-working space builders, accelerators, they have built and run their program, they're already exhausted and say, okay, I need to build another database. And obviously nobody goes and look at that database. But in the future, they may want to talk to AIM.AI and say, hey, AIM, I'm showing up in this city, so give me a game plan. I'm working on this project. What do I need to do? What do I need to learn? And if that was a legacy project I want to do in my life, is to kind of digitize myself or how I operate, and probably the same as you, which is we have built our careers based on becoming successful by helping other people, serving other people,
helping, giving back,
exactly,
creating the network, and even if it doesn't work, and even if there is a failure, you learn, and you learn by just doing something new with others. And I think you're right, and we need to go and meet more of those people like you who are the ecosystem enabler. I'm very much looking forward meeting those entrepreneurs, those ecosystem builders who are building hubs, incubators, accelerator program to see how they support the startups. I'm very much willing as well to meet with those startup owners who succeeded at some point, and so that I could understand how and why they're, and how did they succeed. So we need more, I would say, a new change in a change in the way you need to feel empowered, like how AI could empower you as a person. We need more network. I love this notion of network, more people. So what else do we need as a startup owner today? What can we bring to those people? So they need a network, they need great people, they need a connection. They need to really think through the AI lens. What else? What else do you think we can bring to them?
The tools are there, right? And in any program, it's always a money market and mentorship, right? So the network has plenty of smart people and mentors. There are markets now you can tap through the different nodes, but money is still difficult to go cross-border. And I believe in certain sectors, you can see like in Web3.
So to go cross-border.
Exactly. To be
so
able
you get the money to do something locally, but
yeah, exactly. And I think, maybe there is a role and room for Web3 and cryptocurrency in there. I'm not saying that it's the silver bullet, but many more experience on how to fund great, impact projects that have commercial viability, scalability. If we unlock capital and be able to direct that faster, this is the holy grail, because so many of these impact companies have to go through grant proposals and work on projects.
And do they need to go through, can we not dream of a world where they won't have to go to grants and just NGOs, but basically get the VCs supporting them in a proper financial way? It's always, this notion of good growth. It's like, why do you need these NGO money, or do you need this VC money, and how do you make the balance between both?
Yeah, I think, the capital can come from multiple sources, right? Sovereign wealth funds, individuals, philanthropists. You see it in the climate space. And there's trillions and billions already being deployed or promised, right? And people are saying that the world will need to spend trillions a year to decarbonize the economy, and we're spending a point percentage amount of that. But still, that is probably bigger than most impact funds an entrepreneur can ever dream of actually having access to. So I think rather than trying to...
Is there enough money in Southeast Asia?
I feel that in certain markets there is, an interest, maybe like in Singapore from the government, but not as organized as a venture in the typical sense of like tech or Web3. I feel that this is probably like, impact funds, right? There are communities like AVPN. There's people who are doing family offices, allocating some money, but it does not have the same, rigor and energy and enthusiasm as it once did. I would say, like when I started my career almost 20 years ago, everybody wanted to do more impact investing. It was something that they feel very strongly about.
And surprisingly, it's going down now.
Yeah. I mean,
Going backward.
Exactly.
Why not? Because you think people have not enough return on their investment? Maybe because we, again, have not properly measured the impact, or we haven't, that's finally we've overpromised to those investors. It's such a shame, and it's going backward.
Yeah, and I think that's why there will be a cycle. So, maybe this current vintage of these past few years, maybe the investment projects have not performed as many investors had hoped. But I'm always very optimistic that the next generation will do better. I see my team at Chiang Mai, they actually work harder than me at 25. They're much smarter than me. They're using better tools, and they are very focused and dedicated. So sometimes we just have to wait for the next crop of folks to say that they want to pick up from, where I had failed and many others had tried, chat all about success, but saying, while I've learned from my failures, I would like to pass on this knowledge so that the next generation can build better hubs and actually be more successful. And I think the key thing that's actually very much important for folks, whether they failed, they've tried, they try again, is actually a lot of people end up not giving back. And that culture of giving, paying it forward, paying it back is what makes certain ecosystems thriving, right? That's, if you go to Silicon Valley, a lot of people say that's actually how people operate, because I don't know, one day one of this kid will become a very successful impact entrepreneur. But today he's motivated, he's very smart, and he's trying to do something good that I wish I'd done. I'd want to support him. And that's how my whole space operated. Supporting one another and asking people to support each other and creating a culture that was very alien to Thailand at the time. But by the end of it, people had come to realize that now it's become a bit of a myth, a legendary place. And hopefully somebody will pick up on this spirit and bring it back to in a different shape or form. And I know people already do. The spirit of a community and ecosystem builder resides in us, in the people that I've served. And some of my staff have gone on to do things in the Bangkok governor's office. They went on to build their own communities and tech hub. They actually went on to have more successful careers. So I feel like I'm just spreading this movement, actually, rather than like say AIM built a thing, a space. It's like I helped kickstart co-working space and startups in Thailand. Now I feel like after 20 years, I'm coming to do the same job that I did, was to make impact investing, impact tech, business for good growth, actually viable.
So you mentioned as well, you touch a bit to this decentralized model and Web3. We realize how much it is complicated to measure the impact at the individual level, but also measure the financial return so that we can satisfy the financial investors and give them back as well for what they offered at the start. How do you see the Web3 and those decentralized model coming to support these impact acceleration? Do you think that we will, what's your thoughts on the use of those data marketplace, where the use of decentralized technology to eventually track certain impact that those startups are making? What are your thoughts related to this?
I think there are a ton of really exciting experiments. You're seeing in every one of these decentralized communities, people can come up with different proposals. There are funding pools contributed by the members or different sponsors and entities that then algorithmically, through a process, allow these ideas to get funded, right? So really removing a lot of the friction. Oh, we need to set up an entity. We need to have all these board members and people deciding, right? So being able to programmatically allow for quick but systematic, traceable, and verifiable disbursement of funds. And then those projects have to satisfy certain criteria to be able to unlock those funds. So there's even one in Bhutan, which I met, which is doing tiger conservation called Tiger DAO. Essentially, a lot of high net worth individuals contributed. They will be through their investment, they will be tracking the health of the tigers in the conservation, and the data will be reporting that the funds that each of these.
So each of the farmers or the people could basically report.
Yeah.
Then the data are collected, the data are encrypted.
Yes, and then shared within the community for people to feel like that they have ownership of this initiative, that they are their money is actually going to good use. So of the time nonprofit, a lot of the budget you give to different nonprofits go to administrative or fundraising.
Which again, maybe through the decentralized model, we can pay back those people who are in the fields basically participating as well.
Everything is programmable, incentivized protocols to share value to every stakeholder, right? Whether it's through, when you talk about AI communities, a lot of very smart people are thinking how different contributors for, a new application or an AI model or a data set or an expert or researcher, and all these experts are coming together to work on to solve a problem. How can they all be paid and incentivized? There was another project that we talked about games. Everybody loves to play games, and if everybody is contributing to a game, how can the designer, creator, and player be incentivized? So all this is happening in multiple sectors. I feel like the impact sector, because there's many stakeholders that needs to be supported, it feels that oftentimes we struggle to keep up with not just tracking the impact, but actually taking care of all the stakeholders along the way. So I'm just saying that fundamentally, there is a system of record and a workflow engine that's worth billions of dollars for every business function in every company, right? You have in the marketing department, there's tools like HubSpot, and sales department like Salesforce and CRM and whatnot, and HR like Workday. But in the impact sector or co-working spaces, there is no reliable system record or workflow engine. And
because it is about people.
Yes.
Again, I think what we really learned today is the importance we give to people, even while the technology is booming and they need more AI agent to support them. People remain what matters.
Exactly.
What is the most important?
Yes, but that's the hint to another very big opportunity. Is how do we support the people that are supporting others? Whether are they doing through ecosystem building initiatives and hubs and pop-up cities, or are they doing it through work and impact?
Well, again, maybe the decentralized model could help. Any single action that anyone is doing to be rewarded, be recognized, because it has been encrypted, because it has been listed, and we know that at some point this person could get back from his implication, from his financial support, from his service that he gave to a startup person, right?
Yeah, I don't want it to sound dreamy. I believe that
we need to dream.
Look in the music industry, right? It started that everybody was complaining that all the music was pirated and they were making little money, but every year more money is being dispersed to artists, and still artists are not happy. They don't feel like they're getting their fair share. I think over time, new tools will say like, well, artists can be much more well contributed, and that means there's always new room for new tools, new platforms, right? The platforms of today eventually may not exist, and the business model that overcharges or disincentivize certain sector like music creators, they could potentially be replaced with new tools. Who knows?
Yeah, I think you are touching to something that matters a lot to me. The strengths of the network as human. Remember the Metcalf law and how much when we come all of us together, we could be stronger than anything else. Let's remember we are 7 billions on Earth. And if we can come all together and play a small role, we will make a great impact. I feel we need more and more the system that helps to track the implication of every single individual. People needs to be empowered in that kind of new model. It's not easy. We need to educate them about this type of things. We need to make them feel that when they do something good, what are they doing and how can we reward them for the support that they brought, either financially or with a single action like looking after tiger location or this type of thing, which I do like a lot. And by the way, we want to go to that place maybe along the way to one of the places where they do species conservation using AI and decentralized blockchain. Great that you bring this up today.
Thank you. I hope so. And I'd say my last parting thoughts for this is you're actually like a human experiment to show me how maybe one day I will take my daughter and maybe more kids on a journey. But with your two boys, you have a chance to prove to them, especially at a very young age, that good growth is great business. It's a great calling and a great career, but one that they don't need to sacrifice their own wealth and happiness and their own money to actually pursue this career. Because that's what happened in my first time nonprofit. The more I worked, the more money I lost because I was not paid enough and I was burnt out. But through the lens that they will see, I hope that they will be inspired to say that, they're not just all the problems, but all the opportunities, all the other people that actually said, we cracked it. They can actually do great and make money and be scalable and actually be successful. So, if this borderless, kind of impact journey goes really well, I hope one day, saying on the record to retrace your roots, maybe on a different.
It's on the record. It's on the record. You will. You will get the RV and you will go with your family, and it's just my journey. I hope will be continued, and there might be more people, and I hope that there will be more people going on the road, meeting with the right entrepreneurs and those people who are making an impact every single day. We need to give them some visibility.
For sure.
We need to see those people who are, getting off the ground, new camps, new hubs that are welcoming those entrepreneurs like Impact Hub. And I'm so pleased, having some time with them and going and meeting with all of them so that we could understand what they need more. But the big takeaway from this conversation today is we need more people, we need more networks, we need more access to the right individuals, which also reassure me that I hope that I will bring some value to those people along the way because, and bring this value that some people need. A big thank you to AIM for this conversation. First borderless impact conversation, and I hope there will be many more. It's also a good learning curve for me. I highly appreciated this conversation. I continue to learn every single time I'm speaking with you, Em, so big thank you. And we will, of course, put in the link of the video all the different and organization that Em mentioned so that you can all watch that and watch and just continue to track all of this online. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope we'll see you all on the road in 18 years when my daughter Amy actually gets to 10. Stay tuned.
Another 18 years.
Yeah. Stay tuned for episode 2.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.